Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about how to strip resin models. Now, I recently acquired a pretty large secondhand army of these Deathcore of Krieg models here. I'd always been a fan of these, never been a 40k player, but when I saw these up for about a third of the normal Forge World price, I had to jump on it. And so it's like I'm going to be playing 40k now. But the problem with these models is they are covered in a god-awful paint job. Whoever painted these used some sort of textured primer or paint that meant that there's all this small little granulations across the entirety of the model. It looks hideous up close. So I wanted to remove that. So I looked around the internet trying to find some suggestions on what to use to remove paint from resin. I saw a lot of people saying, don't even bother trying to strip resin, you'll ruin the model. While some people said, oh, use Pine Sol. And then, of course, other people said Pine Sol will melt your model. But the one suggestion I found over and over again was to use something called Simple Green. It's apparently this non-toxic biodegradable cleaner that doesn't harm resin. So I thought I'd go out and give it a try. And what I found was that it is, in fact, an awesome way to remove paint from resin models. I had models soaking in the stuff for a week with no softening of the resin, no distortion of any detail. It worked like magic. So that's what I'm going to do, is just show you how I did that. And here is a model that I stripped and repainted. And I am a mediocre painter at best, but I think that my paint job is much better than the original. At least there's not all that terrible texture all over the model. And I was really pleased with the results, and I think I'm not going to be afraid to strip secondhand resin models in the future. I'd often see them like pop up on eBay, resin models for super cheap, but I always was too afraid to deal with trying to get the paint off them. But now I'm going to use this stuff, Simple Green. And you can get it from pretty much any hardware store in the United States, Home Depot, Lowe's. I'm not sure if you can get it overseas, but if you can, use this stuff. It is fantastic. I cannot sing its praises enough. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this model, stick it in a plastic Tupperware container for only 1 day, just going to soak it for 1 day, and then I'm going to just go over it with a kind of a stiff bristle brush and a toothbrush, and it will get off most of the paint, enough for me to at least reprime the model and paint it up to my own standards. So here's the model after 1 day of soaking, and I'm just taking first my really stiff bristle brush to get off most of the base layer of paint. And as you can see, just after a few seconds of going over it with this brush, all that blue paint is coming off. In fact, you can even see some of the gray resin underneath. And every once in a while, I'm dipping it back in my water to get some lather on the model. And as I wipe off the model with a paper towel, you can see most of the paint already gone. That's how awesome this is after 1 day of soaking. So now I'm just going to continue to go over the model. You know, if you have any delicate pieces on your resin model, you probably shouldn't go over them with this stiff bristle brush. Just go over them with a toothbrush. But this model is pretty solid, so I didn't have to worry about that. Now, if you want, you can soak these things for weeks on end, scrub them every day, and get every little last bit of paint off these things. That's not what I'm going to be worried about. I just want to get off that really bad texture from the base layer of paint, get most of the primer, black primer, off as well, and then I'm just going to reprime them. For my first few models, I was really anal about getting all of the paint off the model, but with my second batch, I decided to do a little bit of a quicker job. I just got really the base coat off and most of the primer, painted both sets up, and I couldn't tell a difference between the ones who I had spent a week trying to strip and the ones who I spent 1 day. So don't try and worry too much about getting every last bit of paint off. And now I'm switching to my soft bristled toothbrush. This is good at getting down into the small little crevices and small little details on the model and getting that primer and paint out of it. So I go over this just to get out all the fine detail. And that's pretty much it. That's all you have to do to strip one of these resin models. And here you can see my Krieg officer here after just 1 day of soaking, a few minutes of scrubbing, and all of the original base paint is off, and most of the black primer too has come off, enough so that when I reprime him, you won't even be able to tell he was a secondhand model that's been repainted. So my suggestion to you is don't be afraid of stripping resin models, unless of course you're dealing with fine cast resin. In that case, the sun will probably melt them. But for most other hard resins that manufacturers now use to produce their miniatures, you should have no problem stripping them with simple green. So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did like it, please do hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I will see you soon.